Jax's revenge domain.
The cooling system in server room B cycled to high speed at exactly 8:47 p.m. that Tuesday night. I was running my weekly diagnostics on the backup authentication systems when voices drifted through the executive conference wall. 12 years of working late shifts had taught me the building's acoustic patterns. These walls were thinner than they looked. My name is Marcus Thompson. I'm 48 years old, former Navy Information Systems Technician, and for the past 12 years I've been the Senior Systems Architect at Blackstone Defense Solutions. That October evening changed everything I thought I knew about corporate loyalty. Thompson's getting too close to the contract routing protocols came Roderick Pemberton's unmistakable baritone, our CEO, the same man who'd personally thanked me for rebuilding their entire digital infrastructure after the 2018 cyber attack. I froze mid-K-stroke. The server fans hummed at 67.2 degrees Fahrenheit as I processed what I was hearing. Third time he's flagged those Pentagon payment discrepancies, Wallace Garrison added, our CFO sounding irritated, getting suspicious about the cost allocation structures. My pulse jumped. Those discrepancies I documented weren't random glitches. For 3 months, I'd been noticing irregular patterns in our government contract billing. Inflated labor costs, phantom equipment charges, payments that routed through subsidiary accounts before hitting our main books. Each time I'd flagged them, management assured me it was standard defense contractor accounting. Standard apparently meant fraudulent. Marcus built this entire network architecture, Pemberton continued, but he doesn't need access to the executive data partition. That's compartmentalized for a reason. The executive partition, I designed that isolated network segment 5 years ago at their specific request, but they'd never granted me administrative access. A black box within my own system. Terminate him Friday, Garrison said flatly, effective immediately. Lock him out before he can dig any deeper into the contract structures. The words hit like a diagnostic error message. 12 years of loyal service. Navy veteran with top secret clearance. Single father raising a teenage daughter. They were discussing my career termination like routine network maintenance. You should see his face when we break the news, laughed Quentin Aldrich, our HR director. That processing delay he gets when he's analyzing unexpected data. Their amusement echoed through the wall. I adjusted my watch band, a nervous habit developed during my Navy service. The luminous dial showed 8:51 p.m. He actually thought he'd get the senior architect promotion, Pemberton said between chuckles, as if we'd put him in charge of sensitive operations when Bradford's ready to assume technical leadership. Bradford Pemberton, the CEO's 26-year-old son fresh from business school with 0 technical credentials. I'd been mentoring him for 6 months, assuming it was standard succession planning. Turns out I was training my own replacement. Make sure the transition is seamless, Pemberton instructed. Bradford needs full administrative privileges by Monday morning, no technical complications. What about system knowledge transfer, Garrison asked. We'll hire consultants if needed. Much cheaper than keeping someone around who asks too many questions about our accounting methods. I closed my diagnostic application silently. Muscle memory from years of submarine service where every sound mattered. Their conversation had shifted to golf handicaps and yacht maintenance. But I'd heard enough. What they didn't understand about the infrastructure I'd spent 12 years building was that every system included multiple redundancy layers, not just for hardware failures, but for security breaches and internal threats. During my Navy service, we'd learned that the biggest risks often came from inside the perimeter. Back in 2019, after Blackstone had blamed me for a security oversight that was actually their own financial manipulation, I'd implemented what I privately called the Integrity Protocol. It was elegant in its simplicity, an automated backup system that monitored executive communications and financial transactions for signs of fraud or misconduct. The system remained completely dormant unless triggered by specific conditions, like a senior systems administrator losing access unexpectedly due to termination rather than proper succession planning. The protocol interpreted sudden credential lockouts as potential security breaches and responded accordingly. When activated, it would compile all executive communications, financial records, and transaction logs from the past 18 months, then transmit everything through encrypted channels to the FBI Cyber Division, Pentagon Inspector General, and IRS Criminal Investigation. I designed it after reading about other defense contractors who destroyed evidence when investigations started. Insurance, I'd called it. Digital insurance against corporate retaliation. Wednesday morning brought unusual attention to my workspace. Orlando Fitzgerald, our chief technology officer, appeared during my routine systems check, carrying a coffee cup and casual curiosity. Good progress on that quarterly security audit, he said, scanning my monitor displays, the boards requesting a comprehensive report by Friday afternoon. Almost complete, I replied, fingers moving steadily across the keyboard. Network traffic patterns showed normal activity, no unusual spikes or anomalies. Just finishing the authentication protocol documentation. Excellent. We should probably discuss knowledge transfer procedures soon, Orlando continued, his tone carefully neutral. Important to have redundancy in critical positions. I nodded, adjusting my glasses, happy to document any procedures you need, particularly the executive network configurations. That compartmentalized architecture you designed. Interesting. They were already planning my knowledge extraction before officially terminating me, of course. Though that segment requires specific clearance protocols for access. Orlando's expression sharpened slightly, naturally. We'll handle the authorization procedures. After he left, I spent the morning reviewing the integrity protocol's configuration. The system was buried beneath 30 layers of legitimate security code, invisible to anyone who hadn't designed the core architecture. A digital dead man switch that would activate exactly 72 hours after my credentials went inactive. That evening, I stayed late again, ostensibly to complete the security audit. The building emptied by 6:30 p.m., leaving me alone with 500 terabytes of corporate data and a decision that would define the next phase of my life. I didn't plant false evidence or delete legitimate files. Instead, I made one small modification to the automated backup scheduler. A single parameter change that would activate the integrity protocol when my access terminated. Like switching a circuit from standby to active. The protocol would interpret my sudden credential lockout as a security breach and respond with its programmed function, complete transparency. Every executive communication, every financial transaction, every piece of evidence would flow automatically to the appropriate federal agencies. Thursday brought increased surveillance. Bronson Cross from IT Security made multiple visits to my desk, ostensibly checking system performance metrics. Network traffic seems heavier than usual this week, Bronson observed, studying my screen with practiced scrutiny. Quarterly backup cycles, I explained, maintaining steady keystrokes. Standard data redundancy operations. He lingered, watching the scrolling diagnostic data. The integrity protocol remained completely hidden beneath layers of legitimate maintenance code. Years of submarine service had taught me that the most critical systems often appeared the most routine. Just ensure any configuration changes go through proper approval channels, he said finally. Absolutely. That afternoon, I watched 3 figures enter the executive conference room: Pemberton, Garrison, and Aldrich. The Termination Committee, assembling for tomorrow's execution. My daughter Sarah would be finishing her robotics team practice about now, probably wondering if I'd make it home for dinner again. At 4:15 p.m., my email chimed with a meeting request. Please report to conference room A at 4:30 p.m. No subject line, no context. Professional courtesy had died somewhere between the Pentagon contracts and the offshore accounts. I saved my work, logged out of all systems, and walked toward what the Navy would have called a disciplinary hearing. The conference room felt colder than the server room, corporate air conditioning calibrated for discomfort rather than efficiency. Pemberton sat at the head of the polished table, flanked by Garrison and Aldrich. Each had a manila folder positioned precisely in front of them. Military bearings suggested preparation, but their relaxed postures indicated confidence. Marcus, Pemberton began, his voice carrying practiced sympathy that rang hollow as a damaged hard drive. Due to organizational restructuring and evolving operational requirements, we're implementing some strategic workforce adjustments. I remained silent, allowing them to commit to their chosen narrative. Your position is being eliminated, effective immediately. Aldrich continued, opening his folder to reveal termination documents. We appreciate your years of dedicated service, but the company is transitioning toward new technological paradigms. What technological paradigms, I ask? Streamlined operations, reduced system complexity, modern approaches to network architecture by replacing me with Bradford. The room's temperature seemed to drop several degrees. They hadn't expected me to know about their succession planning. Bradford brings innovative perspectives, Garrison said defensively. Fresh approaches to modernizing our infrastructure. He's never configured a firewall. Technical skills can be learned, Pemberton snapped. Leadership vision is more valuable than routine maintenance capabilities. Orlando entered carrying a laptop and wearing an expression I recognized from submarine emergencies. Controlled urgency masked as routine procedure. Your system credentials, he demanded, placing the laptop on the table. All passwords, administrative keys, and access codes. We need complete documentation. I provided my primary login credentials, standard user passwords, and departmental access codes. But I omitted the master authentication sequence that governed the integrity protocol, a small oversight that would prove significant in exactly 72 hours. Any additional access methods? Orlando pressed, that covers all active accounts. Aldrich pushed the termination papers across the table. Non-disclosure agreements, severance packages, and legal waivers. Standard corporate burial documentation designed to silence inconvenient questions. Generous severance package, Pemberton noted. 6 months salary, continued health benefits, positive references for future employment opportunities. 6 months salary after 12 years of building their digital empire from scratch. The same amount they probably spent on Bradford's business school tuition. Any questions? Pemberton asked, clearly eager to conclude this unpleasant administrative task. Just one, I said, meeting his artificial smile with steady eye contact. When did you realize I was the only person who truly understood how your systems actually worked? Their confident expressions shifted to something less certain. Pemberton's smile faltered like a corrupted file. What do you mean by that? Garrison asked. I mean, your network infrastructure isn't just servers and software. It's an integrated ecosystem with multiple interdependent protocols. Bradford might understand business theory, but does he know why the executive partition requires manual authentication every 72 hours? Silence filled the room like static electricity before a system failure. That's technical minutiae, Orlando said uncertainly. Consulting firms can handle implementation details, of course they can. Security arrived at 5:23 p.m. to escort me through the building I'd protected for 12 years. 2 guards flanked me as I collected personal items from my desk. Family photos, a Navy coffee mug, and a small American flag Sarah had given me for Veterans Day. The parking lot felt like neutral territory after the corporate battlefield inside. I sat in my truck for several minutes, watching office lights flicker off as the day shift ended. In 72 hours, the integrity protocol would activate automatically. Like a time-delayed transmission, it would begin broadcasting their secrets to every federal agency with jurisdiction over defense contractor fraud. The drive home took me through the industrial district where I'd grown up. Factory smokestacks and warehouse loading docks. The kind of blue-collar neighborhood where people understood the difference between honest work and corporate manipulation. My father had spent 30 years at the steel mill before automation eliminated his position. He'd never spoken bitterly about it. Just found another job and kept providing for his family. Sarah was waiting in the kitchen when I arrived. Homework spread across the table like tactical planning documents. At 16, she possessed her mother's analytical mind and my stubborn determination. Her robotics team had been designing autonomous systems capable of complex decision-making without human oversight. How was work? She asked without looking up from her calculus. Interesting day. Might be exploring some new career opportunities soon. She glanced up, reading my expression with teenager intuition. Everything okay, everything's fine, just corporate reorganization. Happens all the time in tech. That evening, I helped her debug code for her robotics project while carefully not thinking about the integrity protocol counting down like a digital timer. Her team was building a system that could navigate obstacles and complete missions independently, adapting to changing conditions without external commands. The autonomous function is the tricky part, she explained, showing me lines of code. It has to make decisions based on pre-programmed parameters, but respond to unexpected situations. Sounds like military protocol, I said. Clear mission objectives, but flexibility to adapt when conditions change. Exactly. Like having a backup plan that activates automatically if the primary mission gets compromised. I smiled, proud of her analytical thinking. She had no idea how accurately she'd described the system I'd embedded in Blackstone's corporate infrastructure. Friday morning arrived gray and overcast, matching my mood as I drove to clean out my office. The security guard at the front desk nodded politely, unaware that my access badges had already been deactivated. Corporate efficiency in action. Inside the building, Bradford Pemberton stood near my former workstation, looking overwhelmed by the array of monitors and server terminals. His expensive suit and nervous expression reminded me of junior officers on their first submarine deployment, confident in theory, terrified by reality. Marcus, Orlando called out, approaching with visible relief. Perfect timing. Bradford has some questions about the system architecture. The young man turned, extending his hand with practiced corporate charm. Really appreciate you taking time to help with the transition. Dad speaks very highly of your technical capabilities, Dad. Not Mr. Pemberton or the CEO. The nepotism was so blatant it felt like a slap across the face. What specifically do you need to know? I asked, shaking his soft hand that had never configured a router or troubleshot a network failure. Well, everything really. The login procedures, the monitoring systems, the backup protocols. Orlando mentioned there are multiple security layers. I spent the next 2 hours providing basic orientation to systems I'd spent 12 years building. Bradford took notes on an iPad, occasionally asking questions that revealed his complete lack of technical background. He didn't understand the difference between hardware and software firewalls. He'd never heard of network segmentation. The concept of encrypted data transmission seemed to confuse him. The executive partition you mentioned, he said, reading from his notes. How do I access that? You'll need administrative credentials from your father. That segment requires manual authentication every 72 hours for security purposes. Every 72 hours? That seems excessive. Government contracts require strict compliance protocols. Miss the authentication window and the system locks down automatically until manual reset procedures are completed. Orlando nodded approvingly. Excellent security design. We'll make sure Bradford has the proper credentials before Monday. By noon, I'd completed the basic knowledge transfer and gathered my remaining personal items. My Navy coffee mug, some technical manuals, and a framed photo of Sarah winning her school science fair. 12 years of professional life reduced to one cardboard box. The weekend provided welcome distance from corporate politics. Sarah and I drove to Raystown Lake for our traditional father-daughter fishing trip. She'd been making these excursions with me since childhood, back when her mother was still fighting cancer and needed quiet afternoons to rest. You seem different, Sarah observed, adjusting her tackle box with methodical precision inherited from both parents, distracted. Just thinking about career transitions. Nothing for you to worry about. Is this about the company restructuring you mentioned? I cast my line toward the deeper water, watching the lure disappear beneath the surface. Sometimes organizations make decisions that don't align with their employees' best interests. That's a diplomatic way of saying they're being jerks. Language, kiddo. Sorry, they're being corporate jerks. I laughed despite the circumstances. Sarah had always possessed an intuitive understanding of human nature that reminded me of her mother. At 16, she could analyze social dynamics with the same precision she applied to robotics programming. The important thing is maintaining your principles, even when other people abandon theirs, I said. Your mother taught me that. Mom also taught me that smart people prepare for multiple contingencies, backup plans for backup plans. Sarah had no idea how accurately she described my current situation. Sunday afternoon brought the first signs of corporate panic. My phone started buzzing with calls from Orlando, then Bronson, then finally Pemberton himself. I let them go to voicemail while Sarah and I packed up our fishing gear. The drive home took us through downtown, past the federal courthouse where I'd testified as an expert witness in several cybersecurity cases. The building looked imposing in the late afternoon sunlight, granite pillars, and American flags suggesting permanence and authority. You know what I've been thinking about? Sarah said, studying the courthouse as we passed, that autonomous systems project I'm working on. The really interesting part isn't the programming, it's the ethical parameters. How so? Well, if you design a system to make independent decisions, you have to program it with some kind of moral framework. Rules about when to act, when to wait, when to report problems to higher authority. That's a complex challenge. Not really. You just have to decide what principles matter most, then embed those into the core programming, like a digital conscience. At 5:23 p.m. Sunday evening, exactly 72 hours after my termination, my phone rang one final time. I answered on the third ring. Marcus, whatever's happening with our systems, we can resolve this immediately. Pemberton's voice carried barely controlled desperation. Full reinstatement, promotion to CTO, complete autonomy over technical operations. Name your terms, too late, Roderick. What do you mean too late? Nothing's irreversible in business negotiations. I mean, the integrity protocol completed its data transmission 14 minutes ago. Long silence. I could hear his breathing become irregular. What protocol? He whispered. The automated backup system I embedded in your infrastructure, designed to activate if senior technical personnel lost access unexpectedly. It interpreted my termination as a security breach and responded according to its programming. Responded how? Complete data transparency. Every executive communication for the past 18 months, financial records, government contract documentation, transaction logs showing the $320 million in Pentagon overcharges and $120 million in diverted pension funds. You can't do this. We have non-disclosure agreements. I didn't do anything. The system operated exactly as designed. Automated protocols don't sign legal documents, Roderick. Where did the data go? FBI Cyber Division, Pentagon Inspector General, IRS Criminal Investigation Division, probably hitting their servers right about now. The line went dead. Monday morning brought FBI vehicles in the company parking lot. Federal agents with badges and search warrants, loading computer equipment into unmarked vans. By 10 a.m., local news trucks had arrived. By noon, national financial networks were reporting on developing stories of defense contractor fraud. My phone rang with a call from Director Helen Morrison, Pentagon Inspector General's office. Mr. Thompson, we need to discuss some information that came to our attention regarding Blackstone Defense Solutions. Would you be available for an interview this afternoon? Of course, should I bring legal representation? Sir, you're not under investigation. You appear to be a whistleblower who provided crucial evidence of federal contracting violations. We'd like to discuss protection protocols and possible employment opportunities. That afternoon, I sat in a federal office building answering questions about corporate fraud, while Bradford Pemberton struggled to understand why the servers weren't responding to his credentials. The irony felt perfect. He'd inherited control of a digital empire at the exact moment it began broadcasting evidence of his father's crimes to every relevant federal agency. The federal investigation moved with military precision. Within 48 hours, forensic accountants had traced the financial irregularities back 3 years. The Pentagon overcharges weren't isolated incidents. They represented systematic fraud totaling $320 million in taxpayer money diverted to offshore accounts controlled by Pemberton family trusts. Director Morrison explained the scope during our second meeting. Your automated data transmission provided the missing pieces we needed. We'd been investigating Blackstone for 8 months based on anonymous tips, but we couldn't access their internal communications or financial systems. Anonymous tips. Other defense contractors noticed Blackstone's unusually low bids on government projects. When companies consistently underbid by 30%, then deliver on schedule and budget, it raises questions about their actual costs. The mathematics were elegant in their criminality. Blackstone would submit competitive bids using legitimate cost estimates, then inflate actual billing through phantom labor charges, non-existent equipment purchases, and administrative fees that existed only on paper. The difference between bid price and inflated billing went straight into accounts controlled by the Pemberton family. Tuesday morning brought arrests. Roderick Pemberton was taken into custody at his country club during a board meeting with other defense contractors. Wallace Garrison surrendered to federal marshals at his attorney's office. Bradford Pemberton, despite his technical incompetence, faced charges as a beneficiary of the fraudulent trust funds. The pension fund theft proved even more damaging to their reputations. They'd systematically diverted employee retirement contributions to cover operational expenses, gambling that market returns would replace the stolen funds before anyone noticed. When the 2022 market downturn eliminated those gains, they doubled down by stealing more. $18 million in retirement security stolen from machinists, technicians, administrative staff, and security guards. Working people who'd spent decades building this company, only to discover their bosses had been robbing their futures to finance yacht payments and country club memberships. The media coverage focused heavily on the automated whistleblower system that had exposed the crimes. Digital Deadman's Switch Brings Down Defense Contractor Empire read one headline. Financial networks ran special reports about technological ethics and corporate accountability. I testified before a congressional subcommittee investigating defense contractor oversight. The hearing room was packed with journalists, federal prosecutors, and representatives from other companies under similar investigations. My testimony was straightforward. The integrity protocol had operated exactly as designed, providing transparency when internal oversight failed. Mr. Thompson asked the subcommittee chair, "Do you believe other companies should implement similar ethical monitoring systems?" I believe any organization handling taxpayer money should have robust internal controls and transparency mechanisms. The specific technology is less important than the commitment to accountability. The Pentagon offered me a position as senior cybersecurity architect for defense contract oversight. The salary was substantial, the mission aligned with my values, and the work involved protecting the same taxpayer funds that Blackstone had stolen. I accepted immediately. Sarah attended my swearing-in ceremony at the Pentagon, wearing her mother's pearls and a proud smile that made the entire ordeal worthwhile. At 16, she understood the significance of her father choosing principles over profit, integrity over personal security. "You know what I realized about your situation?" she said during the reception afterward. "You didn't actually defeat them with technology. You defeated them with patience." "How so?" "You built that system years ago, then waited until the right moment to use it. Like programming a delayed response function. The technology was just the delivery method. My daughter possessed wisdom beyond her years. The criminal trials proceeded swiftly. Federal prosecutors had overwhelming evidence thanks to the Integrity Protocol's comprehensive data capture. Roderick Pemberton received 22 years in federal prison after refusing to cooperate with ongoing investigations into other defense contractors. Wallace Garrison accepted a plea agreement for 15 years in exchange for testimony about industry-wide bidding manipulation. Bradford Pemberton, despite his minimal involvement, received 8 years due to his inheritance of fraudulent trust funds. His business school education hadn't included courses on ethics or criminal liability. The whistleblower rewards totaled $2.7 million, substantially more than my Blackstone salary over the entire 12-year period. The IRS Criminal Investigation Division explained that rewards scaled with recovery amounts and cooperation quality. Since the automated system had provided complete documentation without requiring extensive investigation resources, the maximum reward percentage applied. Sarah used part of the money for college tuition at Carnegie Mellon, studying robotics and artificial intelligence. She wanted to design autonomous systems with embedded ethical protocols, technology that could make moral decisions without human oversight. Like what you built at Blackstone, she said, but for positive purposes instead of catching criminals. 6 months later, I received a letter from Betty Morrison, a 67-year-old former Blackstone machinist whose pension had been restored through asset recovery proceedings. She thanked me for giving us our retirement back and included a photo of her grandchildren playing in their backyard. That photo sits on my Pentagon office desk next to Sarah's robotics team championship trophy. Reminders that individual actions can have far-reaching consequences, that technology serves human purposes, and that integrity matters more than immediate comfort. My new job involves reviewing cybersecurity protocols for defense contractors across the country. I've discovered that Blackstone wasn't unique. Corporate fraud in government contracting appears to be depressingly common. But I've also learned that simple transparency measures can prevent most abuses. Every system I design now includes what I call sunshine protocols, automated mechanisms that ensure financial data and communications remain accessible to oversight agencies. Not punishment systems, but prevention systems. Technology that makes hiding corruption more difficult than operating honestly. The irony isn't lost on me that my greatest professional success came from being fired for doing my job too well. Blackstone terminated me for discovering their crimes, but that termination triggered the very mechanism that exposed those crimes to federal authorities. If you've ever been in a position where you know something important but powerful people want you silenced, remember this. The truth doesn't need you to stay in the room, it just needs you to prepare the right systems before you're forced to leave. Sometimes the most effective response to betrayal isn't immediate confrontation. It's patient preparation for the moment when truth becomes unavoidable. Build your systems with integrity, embed your values in the architecture, and trust that transparency ultimately serves justice better than silence serves corruption.